Good evening, New Zealand. Leading tonight's One Network News, the Youth Minister scores with teenagers in her drive to promote safe sex.
A visiting church leader stands firm. Prince Charles must not create a crisis in his church.
And a fiery test clash at Eden Park doesn't help the Springboks' cause against the All Blacks.
Captain took one right in the mouth. And he's off, I think. He's off.
A top story, top-level backing for teenagers to have easier access to condoms. Youth Affairs Minister Deborah Morris says free condoms should be made available at places like schools. Some teens agree, but it's prompted new debate over who's ultimately responsible for safe teenage sex. Nicole Bremner reports.
Saturday's synonymous with sport for high school students all over the country. But what's not so out in the open, according to the Youth Affairs Minister, many high school students are sexually active.
It's a matter of accepting what's going on now and acknowledging that and making sure that young people have got the means to keep themselves both physically and emotionally very safe if they choose to be sexually active.
Deborah Morris is advocating education and condoms being freely available to teenagers at places like schools and youth clubs.
I think that it makes sense for there to be either a vending machine, there could be a nurse on site. Each situation will vary and it will be whatever's appropriate for each school will be appropriate.
Teenagers we spoke to today like the idea.
Stop pregnancy and stuff at such a young age.
Probably a better idea if you went to your parents.
Why do you think it's a good idea?
Oh, because I think it's easier for the girls to turn to their health nurses.
But some parents believe sex education is their job.
It's an issue that the parents need to particularly discuss with their children, and that's where I would see the emphasis being placed.
I believe that they need to concentrate more on giving sex education and the consequences of sex.
However, Deborah Morris's concept has found favour with venereologist Dr. Margaret Sparrow, who disputes claims that free contraception will encourage teenagers to become sexually active.
An example perhaps is teaching young people how to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You don't go and push your friends into the pool just so that you can practice it. It's a skill that you know that is there when you need it, and I think condoms should be taught in the same way.
Deborah Morris says her concept would reduce STDs and unwanted pregnancies. A new health curriculum will be going into schools later this year. Family Planning believes good education is just as important as condoms in keeping our teenagers safe. Nicole Bremner, One Network News.
The Archbishop of Canterbury is standing firm. Dr. George Carey, leader of the world's Anglicans, believes Prince Charles would cause a crisis in the church if he remarries. Dr. Carey first made the comment in Australia earlier this week. It was attacked by the author of Britain's book on aristocracy, Burke's Peerage. But today, the Archbishop repeated his claim in New Zealand on national radio. John Stewart has more.
The most senior Anglican clergyman in the world was on Brian Edwards' Saturday radio show this morning, all part of a tour which has included a welcome from Māoridom in Rotorua, where he met the new paramount chief, Tumu Te Hoiho. His Grace pointed out in the interview that while a marriage between the Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles would be a crisis for the church, it doesn't really worry him. Charles says he doesn't plan to remarry anyway. The churchman showed a diplomat's flair for avoiding difficult issues.
I don't want to get into this at all, simply because I'm in the job of supporting a person I admire very much indeed.
Brian Edwards quoted a poll of Anglican priests in England. A third said they would not swear allegiance to Charles as king and defender of the faith because he's an adulterer.
I'm not going to get involved in this at all, because I've got the greatest respect. And I may be criticised for doing so, but my job is one of honour towards them, and I intend to maintain confidentiality at every level.
Dr. Carey will visit Wellington, Christchurch and Dunedin before leaving New Zealand next Wednesday. John Stewart, One Network News.
Meanwhile, Prince Charles' ex-wife Diana has arrived in Bosnia to continue her crusade against landmines. But the visit has been overshadowed by growing speculation about her friendship with Dodi Al Fayed. The alleged affair between the pair has made the front page of every British tabloid. Dodi Fayed is described as a film producer and playboy. He's the son of Egyptian tycoon Mohammed Al Fayed, owner of the luxury London store Harrods. Photographers are now camped outside Dodi's London apartment, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. In Bosnia, Princess Diana has talked to landmine victims on the first day of her 3-day trip. The BBC's David Loyne reports.
The Princess of Wales has just left a meeting with mine victims in the northern town of Tuzla, the scene of some of the worst fighting in the Bosnian War. Diana had arrived this morning to a misty Sarajevo, still suntanned after Sardinia, where newspapers speculate that she may have been holidaying with a new boyfriend. Her Bosnia trip, a world away from the beach, was arranged by an American aid worker who lost both his legs after a mine explosion in Somalia.
It's her heart. I've met a lot of people since my injury to a landmine, and she is a real person. Several weeks ago in Washington, D.C., she made a little Cambodian girl who lost a leg feel like a princess. And that is an incredible, incredible talent.
There are still 1 million mines unaccounted for under a landscape scarred by conflict where many villages still lie deserted.
It's Princess Diana's second trip to a former war zone in her anti-mine campaign. The first in January was to Angola.
In the Middle East war zone, there's fresh violence, this time along the Israel-Lebanon border. Rockets have hit a town in northern Israel, fired by unidentified attackers from Lebanon. Israel is blaming Iran-backed Hezbollah, but Hezbollah denies it. In return, Israeli planes have unleashed missiles at suspected guerrilla bases south of Beirut. The latest round of violence, which began early this week, has now claimed 13 lives. And CNN's Brent Sadler reports it threatens a shaky but crucial truce between Israel and Hezbollah.
There's no question that Katyusha rockets were deliberately launched at civilians in northern Israel, the first time in 15 months, putting further strain on an agreement to keep civilians, both Israelis and Lebanese, out of danger. But the firing line between Hezbollah guerrillas and Israeli troops occupying South Lebanon is again spilling into civilian areas. There have been steadily mounting casualties on the Lebanese side this past week from Israeli shellfire and airstrikes. The guerrilla ranks of Hezbollah have also been hit by Israeli military operations, prompting one of their leaders to support more suicide bomb attacks against Israel. Hezbollah denies being responsible for Friday's cross-border rocket fire, but failed to say who was. Israel claims the organization is pushing the region to war by breaking the 15-month agreement to spare civilians from attack.
The United States has condemned the renewed cross-border attacks and is urging maximum restraint on both sides.
Korean Airlines says blaming the deadly jumbo jet crash in Guam on pilot error is too hasty. The airline says it's still not ruling out other factors like rough weather and equipment failure. And near the crash site today, Buddhist monks helped families honor the 214 killed. Meanwhile, Kiwi passenger Barry Small, one of only 29 crash survivors, is due home in a fortnight. Doctors say he's making good progress in a Guam hospital.
And there's been another fiery crash near Miami Airport in the United States. Yesterday, a cargo plane crashed, killing at least 4 people. Today, a petrol tanker flipped, bursting into flames. The driver was pulled out, badly burned. He's now in a critical condition in hospital. The blaze forced officials to close a major road and an airport runway. And here at home, fire gutted a large wooden building at a timber yard north of Auckland early this morning. The fire at Warkworth also destroyed most of the yard's sawmilling machinery. Fire safety officers believe embers from welding work were the likely cause.
Brooding contractors on the west coast of the South Island have discovered an ancient Maori cave that dates back more than 500 years. The Maori cooking site near Punakaiki was found by accident during road widening. Brent Fraser has that story.
It was supposed to be another routine roading project for Transit New Zealand, $300,000 worth. But the diggers have opened up an ancient treasure trove, bringing work to a standstill. Archaeologists say some of the bones excavated in the cave show clear evidence of early Māori skills. The most notable artefact, a needle.
Drilling the hole for the thread, which is very neatly done, this must have taken some skill.
Even a piece of moa bone was unearthed, so too the upper and lower beaks of the rare black petrel. The cave discovery has revealed rat bones that these scientists think could be as old as 1,000 years. testing the theory that they were only introduced by early settlers. Transit New Zealand says a decision on whether the cave will be demolished will be made in 2 weeks after the bones are carbon dated. Brent Fraser, One Network News.
Still to come, a new marriage for one of our oldest triplets.
But first, another epic match between a couple of traditional rivals, Peter.
Yes, Tom, the All Blacks go on a record scoring spree against the Springboks in a match full of controversy. The All Blacks topped 50 points for the first time against South Africa, despite desperate measures. And there's no catching a Caribbean speed merchant at the World Championships.
And Atto Boldon has made up for the disappointment of the 100 metres.
Good evening, everybody. Well, the All Blacks haven't wrapped up the Tri-Series yet. On today's form, though, they look certain to do that next week against Australia. But South African rugby slides deeper into crisis after New Zealand's record win today. Here's Mike McRoberts.
And here is Sean. In his 50th All Black Test appearance, Frank Bunce got to lead the team out. But once again, it was the Springboks who provided the early fireworks after Ruben Kruger drove over the line.
Randall, it's a great start by South Africa.
The flanker almost had another, but an awkward fall left him with a suspected broken ankle. The All Blacks bounced back as Bunce again got outside his opposite to feed Alama Yeremia. Gary Teichmann's speculative kick couldn't have had a kinder bounce as the Springbok captain gave his side the lead. Percy Montgomery's sliced up and under was even more opportunistic as Christian Cullen completely misjudged it. Down 21-11, quick phase ball gave Carlos Spencer room out wide. The All Blacks took back the lead on half-time as a precise set play linked beautifully by Taine Randall saw Cullen redeem himself. Sean Fitzpatrick may have got a working over in the second half, but it was the Springboks who ultimately suffered as Andre Venter was sent from the field. The All Blacks were quick to take advantage as Justin Marshall ended any speculation about who was the best halfback. He then created the try of the day as Carlos Spencer found Cullen sprinting at full pace. Nothing was going to stop him.
Cullen away!
Perhaps the greatest slap in the face for the Springboks came when they were pushed off their own ball. Taine Randall, the benefactor. The Springboks came back with 2 consolation tries, but never threatened the result.
It's hard enough to play the All Blacks with 15 men, so 14 is not easy. But I must say that the guys gave it we were always trying.
After years of trying, the All Blacks finally dominated their traditional rivals.
Yeah, it was, we counter-attacked from there, and, it paid off, straight line running, and, the gaps opened up.
In the 76 years these two sides have been battling each other, the biggest ever winning margin had been 17 points. Today, the All Blacks rewrote the history books. Mike McRoberts, One Network News.
Christian Cullen's 2 tries take him to 17 in 17 tests. Despite the winning margin, though, the All Blacks conceded 5 tries, all of them converted. A great result today, too, for the New Zealand women's hockey team. It's qualified for next year's World Cup. The Kiwis beat Russia 5-2 to win their pool at the World Cup qualifying tournament in Zimbabwe, and they'll face India in tomorrow's semi-finals. Well, after yesterday's high at the World Track and Field Championships, there was only disappointment for New Zealand today. Jonathan Wyatt pulled out of the 5,000 metres, while discus thrower Ian Winchester and pole vaulter Paul Gibbons failed to qualify. However, back to his best was Trinidad's Atto Boldon in the 200 metres final.
The bronze medalist at the last Olympics went into this final after a disappointing 5th in the 100 metres. Favouritism for the 200 again with Namibia's Frank Fredericks, 2nd, 1st and 2nd in the last 3 World Championships. But it was hardly a contest. Boldon making an explosive start, getting Fredericks on the turn and taking his first major senior title.
Up on Fredericks at the moment, there comes the turn. John Drummond running around on the inside as well. Drummond and Boldon. Fredericks is a long way behind, and it's Atto Boldon coming through. Atto Boldon is going to take this. Even a strong finish from Fredericks can only get the silver.
While Boldon continued the tradition of other great Caribbean male sprinters like Don Quarry and Hazley Crawford, Jamaica's queen of the track, Merlene Ottey, now 37 years old, lined up hoping for her 3rd successive World 200 metres championship. For much of the race, it looked like an Ottey hat-trick, but the veteran conceded her title to youth in the form of Ukraine, Zana Pintusevich.
Closing her down, Miller finishing fast, but it's Merlene Ottey. No, it's Pintusevich on the line.
The silver medalist from the 100 metres going one better in the 200 Ottie's remarkable consistency rewarded with a bronze medal. Africa's domination of men's middle distance events continued, although Kenyan-born Wilson Kipketer's easy win in the 800 metres was completed in the singlet of his adopted home of Denmark.
Now, good news for Zimbabwean goalkeeper Bruce Grobbelaar on the eve of the start of the English football season. Grobbelaar has walked free from an English court today after a soccer match-fixing trial failed to reach a verdict on a charge that the former Liverpool and Southampton keeper accepted money to influence the outcome of games. The threat of lightning left Kiwi golfers Michael Long and Greg Turner stranded in the second round of the Czech Open. Long was 6 under par and Turner 4 under, both with 3 holes still to play. The Prague course was also under attack from a sizzling Swede, as Stephen Stewart explains.
Patrick Solon shot a 10 under par 61 and just missed becoming the first European player to break 60 in a full European Tour event. The Swedes now locked in a 3-way tie for the lead at 11 under par. Former Czech tennis superstar Ivan Lendl fired 75 to miss the cut. Also missing was Mark Waugh, as Andy Caddick claimed his 50th Test wicket for England on the second day of the 5th Ashes Test at Trent Bridge. Steve Waugh continued on his run fest, though, with 75 before falling to Devon Malcolm. Australia making 427. England wiped off more than 100 runs until Shane Warne removed Mike Atherton.
Beautifully bowled, that's got him.
Alex Stewart went on to 87.
Lovely shot for 4.
Before Ian Healy claimed his 300th Test catch.
Warne has picked him up with a big spinning delivery.
Warne totally deceived Nasser Hussain, but Australian-born Adam Holyoke kept him out as England reached 188 for 4 at stumps. St George has kept its slim semi-final hopes alive with a shock win over North in their Optus Cup clash last night. Winger Lee Murphy scored 3 tries for the Dragons, but 2 of them were dubious. Also in doubt, Cronulla prop Jason Stevens after a sickening knee injury last night. Remarkably, the Sharks hope to have him back next week. Of less concern, the Adelaide Rams, which they rounded up comfortably. The Kiwi Tawara Nico laying on one of the best tries. Stephen Stewart, One Network News.
Cronulla comfortably avenged its first round loss to Adelaide, which is at the bottom of the table with Auckland. In the Optus Cup, St George upset Norths 22-14, while Sydney City has a handy lead over Souths late in today's match. And just before we go, some very good news for New Zealand squash today. The junior women's team has beaten Belgium in the semi-finals of the World Championships in Rio, and they play England tomorrow.
Peter, thank you very much. After the break, Karen has news of more sunshine for most of us.
And a day of celebrations for Christchurch triplets with a new knot to tie. Well, another fine sunny start to the weekend for most folk today. Keep it up.
Yes, but there's a price to pay. Frost plummeted temperatures to -7 in the South, Karen.
Yeah, they have to be made of stern stuff down there to cope with that. But after the cold morning, most places ended up a little warmer than normal for this time of year. But in the south, Queenstown still a little chilly on 8. We had 14 for Ashburton, 11 in Hokitika, and up to 15 in Blenheim. 13 or 14 for the lower North Island, with Napier on 14. Hastings, though, a few degrees warmer on 17. We had 17 for Whangarei and 19 for Kaitaia, just 1 degree short of setting a new August record. So a brilliant day over the North Island today. As you can see, clear skies, and that's the high at work. Mostly fine to start with over the South Island, but you can see we've got some high clouds spreading down ahead of a frontal system in the Tasman. So some rain on the way for the South Island tomorrow, mainly for western areas. And we've got 2 reasons for that. One, the moist northerly flow ahead of the front will produce rain in the west as it's forced to rise as it hits the Alps. And of course, more rain with the actual front itself. So we've got a heavy rainfall warning tomorrow for western areas from Milford Sound up to Hokitika. Stays mostly fine over the North Island though, that high's still in charge. So flying over the country at midday, we can clearly see the band of frontal cloud pushing onto the South Island. That'll bring rain to western areas with only light falls spreading into Southland and Otago. Northerlies will be strong in exposed places. Further north, notice the high clouds spreading over to eastern areas. That'll thicken and produce some light rain in the afternoon or evening. Just some patchy rain over Bulla and western Nelson, but it'll gradually get heavier later on. Looking pretty good over the North Island, just a few cloudy areas, but it will be frosty and a bit foggy in the morning. The northerly will become strong in Wellington and fresh over the rest of the island. So some rain for the south tomorrow, but it doesn't reach Timaru until later in the day. Northerly flow keeps it quite mild. Rain all day for the west coast and some patchy falls spreading over to eastern areas later in the afternoon or evening. Nelson also gets some late rain, so remember to bring the washing in. Mostly fine further north with highs between 13 and 15. A great day to visit the Bay cities, clear skies and 16. It'll be cold tonight though. Northerly strengthens in New Plymouth. Some morning fog for Rotorua, but then it's fine and sunny just like everyone else. Taupo plummets to an icy -3 tonight. A mix of cloudy periods and fine breaks for the Bay of Plenty and Northland. A northerly breeze and highs between 14 and 16. So looking down on Dunedin, not too bad in the morning, just that high cloud drifting over the city and a northerly flow. It thickens up in the afternoon and produces some light rain. Great morning for a cafe brunch in the Garden City, but notice high cloud increases during the rest of the day. Maybe a few spots of rain in the evening. If you're planning an outing in the harbour capital tomorrow, there's no sign of any rain, but a strengthening northerly will keep the skies fairly cloudy. Some morning fog for Hamilton, but it doesn't hang around. You can see by mid-morning the skies are clear. A great day to get stuck into the garden. And another fine day for Auckland after that morning cloud evaporates. If you're heading out on the water, there'll be a northeasterly rising to 20 k's with a moderate sea developing. So really quite mild for this time of the year. Late rain for Dunedin and Christchurch. Back to work on Monday. There'll be rain for the North Island and top of the South Island. A few showers in the west, but mostly fine in the east. And on Tuesday, it'll be fine in the east of both islands. Rain or showers, though, for western areas. Well, some sun and some cloud for these events tomorrow, but Seddon golfers should plan an early retirement to the 19th hole before the rain arrives in the evening.
Thanks, Karen. The lucky numbers were all sevens today for one of New Zealand's oldest surviving triplets when 77-year-old Ivy Higginson got married in Christchurch. Her brother Morris Lancaster gave her away. Her triplet sister Avis Berry was her bridesmaid. Ivy married a long-time friend William Miller, who's also 77. The newlyweds' birthdays are just 3 days apart.
I told the doctor that life doesn't begin at 40, it begins at 70-odd, and I'm a recycled teenager.
The bride and groom won't say where they're honeymooning, except it's the place where you wear grass skirts.
And we wish them all the best. That's our bulletin for Saturday.
We'll be back at 6 tomorrow evening. Do join us then. Good night.
Good night.
From the people of One Network News, thanks for watching your world with us.